So I'm Elizabeth from LiveLet Online and Neogenesis Systems. And as usual, we have a lot of questions, particularly about microscopes this time for the LiveLet Analysis upcoming training course. So I've got Dr. Ocker here, and he's going to explain to us what is needed in a microscope for live blood analysis. And also, please take note because we want to help you avoid making expensive mistakes, like a lot of our students unfortunately do. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ocker, first of all, how to avoid making expensive mistakes. So hello, Dr. Ocker. How do students avoid making expensive mistakes with the microscopes?
All right, thanks very much, Elizabeth. So I would say the first and most important thing is to not take what you read on the internet at face value. Microscopes that are being advertised as dark field microscopes for live blood analysis by various microscope suppliers often fall short and don't have the necessary specifications that are needed. So the most important thing really is to actually find out what exactly is needed in a proper dark field microscope, the actual specifications, to become familiar with those, and then to ensure that you are purchasing a microscope from a reputable supplier that actually deals with live blood analysis, someone who actually has experience in the field and knows exactly what type of features are required for a dark field microscope.
Okay, wonderful. Because it would appear that there's a lot of microscopes out there that say they are dark field microscopes for live blood analysis. And from what I understand, they're not being deliberately misleading. They just actually don't know how specialized it is because very few people actually realize how specialized live blood analysis is and the microscopes needed for it.
Absolutely, it really is extremely niche, and a microscope that's suitable for other dark field applications, like for example, looking at organisms in pond water, isn't necessarily suitable for looking at live blood. In live blood analysis, we look for very small, faint, fine structures between the cells and inside of the cells. And for that, you need a very high degree of contrast, a very high level of brightness from the light source in the microscope. There are very important features that really can't be compromised on. If any of those factors are compromised on, then you actually aren't able to see what you should be able to see. And the challenge is, that these suppliers are not involved in live blood analysis training. They don't have any experience in the field at all. So a lot of them just assume that if it is a microscope that has some sort of dark field capability, that it would in fact be suitable. And that definitely is not the case. As we see, often, unfortunately, people often make this mistake, end up purchasing a microscope in good faith from a supplier thinking that it would be suitable for dark field, and it ends up just falling completely short of what you actually need for dark field analysis. So
Okay.
if we can go through a few images, I have some examples just to illustrate what we're actually looking for and the difference between a proper professional dark field microscope for live blood analysis and more of a type of standard microscope that has just been adapted to feature dark field. And we've actually included the links here. These are all images that are available online. You can follow the links and have a look for yourself as well. We always recommend, if you are looking for a dark field microscope and you're not familiar with the terminology and it seems too technical, the simplest thing to do would simply be to ask the supplier for an image of live blood in dark field. If it's a microscope being advertised for this purpose, then they should have examples of blood viewed with their microscope in dark field. And then you can very easily compare between the type of images that we use when we work with the course and with our microscopes and the microscope that's being supplied. So here we have a good example. This is actually the image on the left-hand side is taken with our HDMI LED dark field microscope, and the image on the right-hand side is a Brunel branded hemoscope type of microscope that has a 100-watt halogen light source. Now, the light source here is actually, or should actually be, bright enough to produce a clear image in dark field, but as we can see here, compared to what we're seeing on the image on the left-hand side, firstly, the magnification is very, very different. So the image on the right, they are using 100 times objective, and the image on the left, 100 times objective, is also being used. These have not been edited in any way. What you're seeing on the screen in the picture there is what will be shown on the screen when the blood is viewed under the microscope. So the degree of magnification there is a huge difference. Using the 100 times objective on our microscope produces a magnification on the screen of about 4,000 times. So we can see the size of the red blood cells here in the left-hand side image compared to the red blood cells in the right-hand side image. Really is a huge difference. So that just illustrates using the 100 times objectives, which is the highest level of magnification on the microscope. Now, interestingly enough, when we're looking at live blood, we don't actually work with 100 times objective all the time. It's only really when we need to zoom into specific areas and look at certain structures like microbes to actually look at their morphology where this level of magnification is required. So if we go to the next image, all right, this is using the 40 times objective. We'll just go back to the previous one. There we go. That's the one we wanted to look at. So this is the 40 times objective on our microscope and the 100 times objective on that Brunel microscope. So we can see the magnification here is quite similar. With our microscope using a 40 times objective, the on-screen magnification is about 1,600 times. So quite close to what we're seeing with the Brunel microscope there. But we're looking specifically here at what we can see between the cells, because in dark field, we're not so concerned about what we can see in bright field. We're actually looking for the structures that are not visible in bright field. You know, all of these cells visible on the right-hand side, the red blood cells would be.
Sorry, are you saying that we're not particularly interested in the shape and size? We're more interested in what's going on in the plasma?
Well, yes, the shape and the size of the cells are important, but that, you know, is visible in bright field as well. But the true value of dark field is that we're able to see the small structures that are completely invisible in bright field. And those are these little structures that we can see in this image on the left-hand side between the cells. So the platelets, the small little structures around the platelets, and all these dots in between, fine fibers in the plasma as well, those are completely invisible on this image on the right-hand side. So that illustrates that we're not getting the correct level of contrast with this other microscope, and that is related to various settings. Although the light source is sufficient, there's just not enough clarity coming through, most likely related to other settings in the microscope itself. Our LED microscopes actually have a 9-watt LED light source, which is equivalent to about 100-watt halogen. But we can see the difference here quite clearly, and we really need to be able to see all these fine structures that we're seeing in the left-hand side image in dark field.
So those fine structures are really crucial to the analysis, yes?
Absolutely, it really is. And often that's where the sort of basis of the case is. The sort of underlying issues that we really need to work with in a case are often found in those structures, in those faint patterns that are only visible with a good quality dark field system. Some of those patterns might become visible with a less professional dark field system, but only when it's really progressed very far. And at that point, it's a lot more difficult to correct those patterns then through nutritional interventions. You know, we want to be able to see them as soon as possible. And not being able to see them often would lead you to work with patterns and imbalances that are not really at the basis of the case, not really the sort of underlying cause of the client's issues. And that really does affect your results then in practice.
That's because you're not getting a clear picture, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And the challenge is, you know, if you can't see what is there, you know, if you just simply don't know, it's you have no way of knowing if those structures are there if you're unable to see it with the microscope. Right, let's move on to the next slide. This is also a image of live blood taken with our microscope using the 40 times objective on the left-hand side there, compared to what's seen using the 40 times objective on a Euromax or Euromix microscope sold as a dark field live blood analysis microscope. We often have attendees buying this type of microscope and then contacting us to try and find out how they can get the type of images that we get, that we have in the course and that we have with our microscope. And it simply isn't possible. There's not enough brightness, there's not enough contrast in this microscope, and the magnification isn't what it should be. So, if you have the magnification on the right-hand side there, it really is extremely difficult to see anything other than just the shape and the arrangement of the red blood cells, which we can do very easily in bright field. What we really want to see are the structures between the thrombocytes, between the cells, all those fine structures. So we can see on the left-hand side here, this sort of hazy white area in the plasma. That really is very important. That relates to liver stress and things like inflammation. If that's not visible, often if you're not addressing the liver and you've missed that completely, you really don't see the results that you should be able to see. Also around the cells towards the left-hand side here, we have some fermentation patterns as well related to candida. If you don't have the correct magnification, you simply won't be able to see them. So it really is extremely important to have the correct settings on the microscope to actually see these structures clearly.
And these other microscopes, can they be upgraded to be able to see the anomalies that are seen in the Neogenesis HDMI LED microscope?
Unfortunately not. It isn't really a case of just plugging in a stronger light bulb and increasing brightness. The entire sort of electrical components in the light source are all built around the wattage and the strength of the light source. So if it's a 3-watt LED light source, which is the case with this Euromax microscope, it's about equivalent to 20-watt halogen, which is far below the minimum requirement for dark field. And there isn't really a way to upgrade that unless you can find some sort of external light source that can be attached, but you would have to then design some way of attaching that to the microscope to incorporate that type of light source. It's really not something that's easily done. In most cases, it's not possible at all.
Okay, thank you.
Right, let's move on to the next one. This is just another example, also using 100 times objective between the two different microscopes, the 100 times objective using the HDMI LED microscope on the left, and then an optico microscope sold online and advertised online as a professional live blood analysis microscope. But you can actually see there that there is very little visible other than the shape and the arrangement of the red blood cells. That's a white blood cell towards the bottom of the image there. We really can't see anything. There's a platelet visible towards the top left. There should be much more visible in the plasma here. We really have no idea what's going on there. And if you're using this microscope, you simply won't see what you should be able to see. And that's just because the features and the specifications are lacking. Again, the inferior type of light source, not enough brightness coming from the light source, and the type of condenser being used tends to create this type of image. And there's no way of changing that or upgrading that. It's the whole microscope basically has to be changed for you to get that type of image. The level of magnification as well, you can see a very big difference here in the level of magnification. And with our microscopes, there's this built-in additional magnification in the video tube, optical magnification in the video tube, producing a higher level of magnification on the viewing screen than what you get through the eyepieces. So that's why there is such a big difference between the magnification levels here. Although the 100 times objective is used in both cases, there's no additional magnification being supplied to the video screen with the optico system or with any of the other commercial type of microscopes out there. All right, and then this is another one. So we just have a few examples of some of the common microscopes. We often get attendees asking us whether this microscope would be suitable. These are often advertised as dark field microscopes. Some of these are actually recommended by some other training institutions as well. And compared to what you should be able to see, you can see that these really are lacking in clarity and in the sort of contrast that we should be able to get with dark field. So again, using 100 times objective, we can see a huge difference there in terms of the magnification and also in the clarity. I mean, the color in that image on the right-hand side also isn't really what we should be seeing. What you see through the eyepieces of the microscope in terms of the color should be very similar to what's appearing on the screen. There's definitely some problems with the settings there. And the fact that we don't have enough brightness from the light source then creates this very dim image where all you can really see just are the shapes of the red blood cells and the arrangement, which is important, but that's not where the most important findings are. In dark field, we're really concerned with what's going on between the cells, and those finer structures really are extremely important. There's a long list of anomalies that we see only in dark field between the cells that really are crucial in cases. And if we miss that information, you often miss the boat completely with your clients.
Wow. Okay. Very important.
All right. So that's actually the end of the slides. We have more examples available if attendees want to look at more examples of dark field live blood samples with the Neogenesis microscope. They can follow the link under the Neogenesis HDMI microscope on the left-hand side here. They can follow that link, and that will take them to a folder where they'll be able to access more examples of what you would see with our microscopes using the 40 times objective, producing a magnification of about 1,600 times on the screen, and the 100 times objective, which produces this magnification of about 4,000 times. And this is sort of at the edge, at the limit of what we're able to achieve in terms of magnification and resolution with optical microscopes. So we're really able to get quite close to these structures, and we can actually see a lot of detail. As you can see in this image on the left, we're looking at a lymphocyte there, and we can see the cell membrane and that shape of the cell membrane, and all that activity is very, very clearly visible, which is completely impossible if the microscope does not have the correct specifications.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for that. And we hope that's been useful to you. And also, we hope that will help you not make the mistake of buying the wrong microscope for live blood analysis. And please click on the link below if you would like some more information. And also, you can find more information at info@livebloodonline.com. And also, if you have any questions, you can email us at www.livebloodonline.com for the website, and info@livebloodonline.com if you have any questions. And we look forward to seeing you on a training course soon. So thank you very much, Dr. Rocker, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.